Well guys, cheers everyone out there. Hope you're all having a lovely lockdown. But most importantly, of course, cheers to all my patrons who have been supporting me on Patreon. Without you guys, we wouldn't be where we are today. So cheers to you guys. We are heading into winter soon, and very shortly, hopefully, we can get out and do some wheeling again in the snow and the mud and the rain. We're in the middle of lockdown right now. Not a lot we can really do. Luckily I haven't been going insane, I've been enjoying it quite a lot. But of course, content. Can't get out, can't go wheeling, can't go tripping, can't do all this sort of stuff. So I thought we would have a chat about where Lost Sheep began and my previous trucks. I've had a couple and I've loved every one of them, as I'm sure every one of you have loved every truck you've ever owned as well. So I thought we'd have a quick chat and just sort of banter a bit, enjoy a beer. I'm actually currently sitting here enjoying the hazy IPA from Searchlight. These guys are brilliant and they make some delicious beer. Hit them up online, you can get them all around the nation now, so try them out. We'll date back almost 10 years ago now. I was 18 years old and I spent $4,000 on a 1987 Toyota Hilux. 4-door, flat deck, 2.4 non-turbo diesel. That thing was my pride and joy. Absolutely love that truck. First truck you'll ever own, you always got a little soft spot for it, right? Did a little bit of wheeling. Never really got much photos with it, sadly, but it was my little baby. Up until the point I blew the engine on it. 18 years old, didn't really know much about mechanics or anything to do with vehicles, and I thought the oil pressure gauge was the oil level gauge. Yeah, so that thing seized. Got the mechanics to put another engine in, and ran that thing for another few months, and it ran beautifully. It did really well up until the point I was heading down to a big airsoft event. Some of my mates might even remember this, but the cam belt went and suddenly I blew another engine. So that wasn't the last of it though. We then got together with the mechanics and thought, okay, we've got two halves of two bad engines, let's build one good engine out of those two bad engines and put that in the truck. And that worked for a while. It actually ran beautifully, surprisingly. Up until the point finally I broke a con rod and it made a whole lot of racket. So I sold that off, and you should have heard the noise it made reversing up. You know that streets have those little curves to run the water off? Trying to reverse up that. The noise was insane. The racket, it was getting people out of their houses down the street. I wish someone was filming it. Next truck after that was probably, has a little soft spot in my heart. All these types of trucks do. I absolutely love the look of them, absolutely love the feel of them, and this one was a bit of a rarer model with a solid front axle. It was a 1987 Toyota Hilux Surf. I loved that thing. Probably my favorite truck I've ever owned. If I could go back, I would never have sold it. Yeah, with a solid axle, it was really well set up, just straight from the get-go. It went everywhere I pointed it. I had a lot of good times with that truck. Actually, I really want to one day pick up another old one, solid axle, swap it if it's IFS, and build myself my ultimate touring wagon. Would be sick. We'll see how that goes. I would love to put a 3RSZ in one of those. I also thought about putting a 1J in them, but that's a little over the top. And then I picked up another Surf, a 90s Surf, which had 35s and a body lift on it. So I pulled those off, put them on the old school Surf, and then that, of course, ripped an engine mount off and blew the head gasket on that. So I sold that off. Really, really wish I hadn't, but you know, I was like 19, 20 at the time. Yeah, you get those things. So I sold that off, and that's when I picked up this little beaut here. This is a 70 series Toyota Land Cruiser, short wheelbase, originally petrol and originally a wagon. Someone had U-chopped it and swapped the diesel in there. The 2H motor was gutless, but it was a one-time vehicle. You know, who else has a little U-chopped 70 series? The thing was sick. Little barn doors in the back. That was a cool vehicle, and took that thing all over the South Island, road tripped it up and down all over the place. Got it stuck, took it on some wheeling trips, had a blast with that truck. The 2H motor just kept ticking along. It was gutless though, but ultimately I wanted to go to something larger, back to a Surf, back to a sort of a touring wagon. So I found this dude who wanted to swap his old school Surf for something that was a bit more of a river hack, and so we swapped it up and I picked up my next Surf. The IFS was such a smoother steering and smoother ride than I'd ever felt before, being solid axles every other time. So ran that thing for a while, did a big 10-day trip around the South Island where ultimately I rolled it at about 80k an hour. Yeah, it was rough. Came out through a corner, tail end kicked out, thought I had this. No LSD or locker in the rear though, so no traction at all. I corrected it, overcorrected it, it grabbed traction, spun around, and we hit the curb on the other side. Rolled once over onto a fence post. Both me and my mate were absolutely fine. Got out of it without a scratch really, while she had a cut on her hand where the camera lens hit her. We both walked away from that, no worries at all. Bit of an eye-opener. Was scared of gravel roads for about a couple of hours, but back out here doing it again, no worries. After a bit though, I decided to get a car. Yeah, different, right? Had to go somewhere, had to go do things. It was actually the favourite car and best car and only car I've really loved and owned. It was a Nissan Laurel RB20D. It had been lowered, it had a lovely stance to it, lovely look to it. It was a cruiser, and that thing was just sick. Sounded amazing. Sold that, and I picked up a 1997 this time. But a Hilux, single cab, 2.8 litre diesel, the 3L with a plus T. And that thing was awesome. I could thought, yep, it's lifted, it's 33s, it's set up for what I want to do. And that there, folks, was literally the beginning of Lost Sheep. That was where I finally decided to start filming, to actually put some effort into it. This had been in plans for years prior. Ever since I started watching four-wheel drive action, I'd been wanting to do exactly their job. So this was the beginning of it. It was a ute, I could set it up however I wanted, and it was going to be epic. But then a few months later, the girlfriend comes to me and says, hey, why don't we get a Jeep? And me loving wheeling, me knowing what the Jeeps are like in the States, I thought, hell yeah! So we looked at getting a Jeep. So I browsed around, and that's where I found the TJ. So I sold the Hilux, picked up the TJ, and that thing has been an absolute beast off-road. I have never driven anything so capable as that thing. It is insane, and I love it to bits. However, it does have quite the large drinking problem, to which my pocket doesn't really like that so much. So at the moment, of course, I still have the Wrangler. Still love that thing to bits, and I would love to turn it into the ultimate tough touring rig, really. A tough touring rig is what I would love to build out of it for two people, but the space is incredibly small. It is a tiny little truck versus everything else on the roads, but I do love it. Sounds amazing, goes anywhere. The big downside of Lost Sheep Adventures is I work in tourism, like the town behind me here, who's currently sitting in a chateau of its once former glory, which means money in the pocket is no lots, and that thing drinks a lot of it. Future plans, thinking smaller engine, larger carrying capacity, and hit some tough ass trails out in New Zealand. If you really love what I'm doing, if you want to see more and more of this, consider becoming a member. Jump on over to Patreon, it's down in the description there. This is a way that you guys can support Lost Sheep Adventures to make sure I keep getting out there and doing stuff, while also getting a few extra benefits for yourselves as well. Things like early videos before they drop on YouTube. I always try and drop them in for patrons first. So hit that subscribe button down at the bottom right there, guys. Keep up to date with how Lost Sheep is doing, where we're going, what the next trip is, what the next trails are, and keep enjoying the videos. Of course, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, hit the thumbs down. It lets me know what's going on, and we will catch you in the next episode, guys. Cheers, team.